New Year's resolutions? Come on, they work when you actually commit. That fresh start feeling is real. I'm all in.
Oh, please. Most people drop them before February even ends. It just turns into another reason to feel guilty.
That's exactly why we're talking about it today. I'm all for resolutions, always have been.
And I'm the opposite. I think they sound good, but rarely stick. Let's dig into the facts, psychology, and see what really works. Pros, cons, everything. You know what? Let's let the listeners decide. Whose argument feels more convincing?
Anyway, welcome to Think Outside the Mug. I'm your host, Farya.
And I'm your co-host, Fayaz. Let's dive in.
So before we get into the debate, I just want to say, you know what? It just seems like good timing right now. We've passed January 1st, but Chinese New Year is coming up soon. The year of the horse. Perfect moment for a fresh start.
See, that's exactly what I mean. You're already looking for the next perfect moment. First it's January 1st, now it's Chinese New Year, then what? Your birthday? Summer solstice?
Hey, multiple chances for renewal sounds like a feature, not a bug. But seriously, the year of the horse symbolizes energy and momentum. Different cultures recognize this universal human need to reset and recommit.
Or maybe it just proves we keep failing and need excuses to try again. Speaking of history, you know where the phrase New Year's resolutions actually came from?
Enlighten me.
You know, the phrase New Year's resolutions was first documented in a Boston newspaper on January 1st, 1813, in a satirical piece called The Friday Lecture that poked fun at people's hypocrisy, indulging wildly all December, then promising to wipe away all faults on New Year's Day. It wasn't even born from something positive. It started as a joke about how people mess up all year and expect a magical reset.
Okay, that's actually hilarious. But you know what? The fact that this satire stuck for over 200 years proves something important. It resonated because the psychology behind fresh starts is real. People weren't laughing at the concept itself, they were laughing at the execution.
Fair point. But doesn't that support my argument? 2 centuries later, we're still making the same mistakes.
Or we're still trying because the instinct is fundamentally sound. Look, psychologists call these temporal landmarks, moments in time where it genuinely feels easier to turn the page. It's not just arbitrary.
Temporal landmarks, sure. But nothing actually changes on January 1st except your calendar. You're the same person with the same habits, just with more guilt loaded on top.
That's where you're wrong, though. The fresh start effect is documented in behavioral science. When people perceive a new beginning, they're more likely to engage in aspirational behaviors. It's about the psychological reset, not the date itself.
Okay, let's talk numbers then. Studies show that 77% of people stick with their resolutions for 1 week. 1 week, Farya! And only about 19% are still at it after 2 years. How is that success?
Hold on, Fayaz. You're saying 19% achieve lasting behavior change? That's actually amazing. 1 in 5 people creates genuine transformation in their lives. That's not failure, that's opportunity.
What? You're spinning a nearly 80% failure rate as good news?
No. I'm saying that without resolutions, how many of those people would have changed at all? Maybe 5%? 2%? The resolution gave them a framework to even try. And some research shows success rates up to 55% when people formulate goals properly.
Look, when people formulate goals properly, that's doing a lot of heavy lifting there. Most people don't. They say, lose weight, exercise more, save money. Totally vague, no plan, pure wishful thinking.
That's a criticism of poor goal setting, not of resolutions themselves. When people set approach goals, positive targets like go to the gym 3 times per week, they succeed almost 60% of the time. When they set avoidance goals like stop eating junk food, success drops to 47%.
Okay, that's actually interesting. So it's about what you're moving toward, not what you're running from, right?
Exactly. Your brain doesn't process negatives well. Tell yourself don't eat chocolate, and guess what image pops up? A bar of chocolate. But eat an apple for my afternoon snack. That's concrete, positive, actionable.
I'll give you that. But here's my problem. Why wait until January? If someone decides in July they want to get healthier, why should they wait 6 months for some arbitrary calendar date? That's just procrastination with a fancy name.
You're not wrong about that. The I'll start Monday or I'll start in January mentality can be an excuse. But for many people, the collective energy of a new year provides real social support and accountability.
Or collective guilt when they fail along with everyone else.
You know what? You're so cynical. But let me ask you this. When do you suggest people make changes? Just randomly whenever?
Honestly, yes. The best time to start is right now. Not January 1st, not Monday, not after your vacation, today, this minute. Waiting for the perfect time is just your brain's way of avoiding discomfort.
But doesn't everyone need some planning time? Some mental preparation?
Planning is fine. Planning for 6 months while doing nothing is not. And here's the psychological trap. When people plan their resolutions, they get a dopamine hit. They feel good, like they've already achieved something. So they get the reward without doing any work.
That's actually fascinating. So the planning itself becomes the procrastination?
Exactly. They buy the gym membership, get the meal prep containers, download the app. All that activity feels productive, but they haven't actually changed any behavior yet. Then February rolls around and the dopamine's worn off. You know, James Clear, the guy who wrote Atomic Habits, he said, "You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems." That's the whole problem right there.
Okay, but that's still better than never thinking about it at all. At least they're engaging with the idea of self-improvement.
Is it though? Or does it just create this shame cycle? They fail, feel terrible about themselves, which makes them less likely to try again. Maybe not making resolutions removes that pressure entirely.
No!
Whoa,
That's giving up before you even start.
calm down, mademoiselle.
I am calm. All I'm saying is, yes, many people fail, but the ones who succeed often do it because they made that commitment. Studies show that people who explicitly make resolutions are more successful at change than people with similar goals who don't formalize them.
Okay, it's because they're already the type of people predisposed to succeed. It's selection bias. Self-motivated people make resolutions and also happen to achieve their goals. The resolution isn't causing the success.
You have an answer for everything, don't you?
I'm just saying, look at the evidence. Mid-February is called the graveyard of resolutions. The gym empties out, the diet books get dusty, the language app sends increasingly desperate notifications.
Hello? That's because people approach it wrong. If they focused on systems instead of outcomes, built habits instead of chasing transformation, used the SMART goal framework, which stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound, they'd see different results. You know, BJ Fogg, the behavior scientist at Stanford, always says, make it tiny. Start so small you can't fail. That's the secret.
But most people don't know any of that. They're setting themselves up to fail with vague, ambitious goals and zero plan. Isn't it kinder to tell them the truth? That these resolutions are mostly empty promises?
Well, no. It's kinder to teach them how to do it right, to help them understand that behavior change is about small, consistent actions, that it's okay to stumble and get back up, that progress isn't linear.
I agree with all of that. I just don't think January 1st is magical. In fact, I think the January pressure makes it worse. I hate it when everyone's watching, judging, comparing. Social media is full of transformation posts that make regular people feel inadequate.
That's a fair point about social pressure. But it can also create accountability and community. Resolution support groups actually improve success rates significantly.
For the people who join them, sure. What about everyone else who's just white-knuckling it alone, relying on willpower that evaporates by February?
Well, then we need to normalize asking for support. The problem isn't the resolution tradition itself. It's that we treat behavior change as this individualistic, willpower-driven thing, when it's actually about environment, systems, and social support.
But isn't that exactly why New Year's resolutions don't work for most people? The tradition sets them up with the wrong assumptions.
Or probably the tradition gives them the opening to try, and we need better education around how to actually succeed. Think about it. Without New Year's resolutions, would millions of people even pause to think about self-improvement?
Maybe they'd be happier? Maybe this constant pressure to optimize ourselves is exhausting and we should just be.
Okay, now you're being philosophical on me. But there's a difference between toxic productivity culture and healthy growth. Wanting to be healthier, learn new skills, improve relationships, those are human aspirations, not capitalist conspiracies.
I never said they were. I'm saying the New Year's resolution framework often wraps those healthy desires in unrealistic expectations and arbitrary timelines.
So your solution is what? Never set goals? Just drift through life hoping things improve?
No, my solution is to decouple goal setting from January 1st. Make changes when you're ready, when you actually have a real plan, when life circumstances support it, not because a calendar told you to.
Wait, but for many people, that moment of readiness never comes without some external push. The new year provides that. It's permission to begin.
Permission which actually you don't need. You can start anything, any day. In fact, starting on a random Tuesday in March might be better. Less pressure, no one watching, just you and your goal.
And how many people are going to have that epiphany on a random Tuesday versus the collective momentum of New Year's?
Well, the ones who are actually ready to change versus the ones who think they should want to change. You see the difference here?
Okay, that's actually profound. The difference between wanting to want something and actually wanting it.
Exactly. And I think New Year's resolutions often come from the first place we think we should lose weight, should exercise more, should read more books. But if we don't actually want those things enough to start right now, January 1st isn't going to change that.
But you know what? Wanting something isn't always enough. Sometimes we need structure, accountability, a clear starting point. That's what the new year provides.
Or an excuse. I'll be different next year. Next year, I'll have discipline. Meanwhile, nothing changes because the person hasn't changed.
But people can change. That's the whole point. Yes, it's hard. Yes, most people struggle. But some people succeed and their lives improve dramatically because they use that New Year's motivation to build something real. Maya Angelou once said, "We delight in the beauty of the butterfly, but rarely admit the changes it has gone through to achieve that beauty." Change is hard, but it's worth it.
You know what? I'm genuinely happy for those people. I'm just saying they're the exception, not the rule. And maybe we should stop pretending that resolutions are this great tradition when, statistically, they're mostly just an annual disappointment.
You're so focused on the failures that you can't see the value in trying. Even if someone only sticks with their resolution for a month, that's a month of positive behavior. That's not nothing.
But that month is followed by guilt and shame that prevents them from trying again. Then it's worse than nothing.
Okay, how about we reframe it? What if instead of resolutions, we called them intentions or experiments? Less pressure, more curiosity?
I like that better, actually. So, for example, it should sound something like this. I'm going to experiment with morning workouts for January and see how I feel. That's different from, this year, I will transform my body.
You see? We're finding common ground. It's not about the tradition itself. It's about how we approach it.
Okay, I'll give you that one. Though, I wish we had more of these moments throughout the year. Why not quarterly resolutions? Monthly check-ins?
Now you're talking. That's exactly what successful people do. They don't just set it and forget it in January. They revisit, adjust, celebrate small wins.
But then it's not really a New Year's resolution anymore, is it? It's ongoing goal management.
Which is what resolutions should have been all along. Maybe that's what the tradition needs to evolve into. Not one big January declaration, but a year-long practice of growth and adjustment.
I could get behind that. Though I bet most people still wouldn't do it.
There's that optimism I love about you.
Tell you what, this debate has been interesting. You've made some good points about the psychology of fresh starts.
And you've made me think about the downsides. Maybe we're both right.
Did we just find nuance in a debate?
But seriously, I think the takeaway is this. Resolutions can work, but only if people understand the psychology, set proper goals, and give themselves grace to fail and try again.
And maybe don't wait for January 1st if you're genuinely ready to change right now.
Agreed. Well, what a debate this was. Thanks for sticking with us on Think Outside the Mug. Hope to see you next time for more Outside the Mug thinking.
Yeah, and grab our free printable PDF from the comments. Jot down your own goals or reflections, completely free.